Hello and welcome to the Soft UK podcast. I'm Kate Hart, the Engagement Officer for Soft UK, a charity or support organisation for families affected by trisomy 13 and trisomy 18. In today's episode, we'll be speaking to Becky Smith, who is mum to Freddie, who had trisomy 18, and more recently, she became mum to Jaxon, her rainbow baby. So welcome, Becky, and welcome, Jaxon.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. So, just before we get started, I thought for anyone listening who doesn't know what a rainbow baby is, or has never heard of that term before, it's a baby that comes after the loss of a baby due to miscarriage or stillbirth or the death of an infant. And the name or the idea behind it is that it's a rainbow which comes after a storm or after a difficult time. So it's quite a lovely image and one which yeah, you'll be familiar with by the end of the podcast. So to start off, Becky, could you share with us a bit about your journey with Freddie and how you became familiar with Soft UK, please?
Yeah, so we found out through our screening that there was a high risk of trisomy 18 or 13. And then we decided to do, so that's at 12 weeks. And then we decided to pay for an NIPT because they weren't available on the NHS at that time, because this is the 2021. And so we did an NIPT at a private clinic. And then basically we had the result. They rang us on a Friday evening and at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and basically told us that yes, our baby did have Edwards. And they were like, that was it. and basically left us to ourselves for the whole weekend, just to try and understand everything what had happened. So basically we over the weekend we had done, obviously because all we had was Google, so we Googled all that we could. And then on the Monday morning, basically I rang up our local hospital to speak to the screening team there. And they had us in straight away to go talk to them. And basically it was Swindon Hospital who put us in the direction of Soft. They basically said, there's this charity, this is what they're about, reach out to them. And that's how we became familiar with Soft. And I think not long after that, I think we probably joined our first call with you guys. And to be honest, anyone who gets the diagnosis of Edwards, nobody's ever heard of it. Like it's, nobody knows anything about it. It's such a rare condition that, to actually then when we had that call, and I remember saying, I'm not planning on doing any talking. I was like, because it's not really me, it's not really my sort of thing. But actually we joined that call and it was such like a breath of fresh air, because there was people going through exactly the same different stages. Some were like further on in their pregnancy, some were like, but we were all going through the same thing. And actually just to have other people understand, and not know the answers and not know all the, we didn't have a clue what was coming. I mean, probably at this point I was probably only about 16 weeks, I think, when I first got in touch with Soft. And yeah, so from then on, basically we joined some more calls and stuff, and yeah, so that's how it all came about, really.
And you've made some lovely friendships, haven't you, through those calls that you've continued after?
Yeah. So I've got a friend up in Scotland who she was on the first call that we joined, and she had a daughter in the September, who I think she was around for, I think it was 12 weeks, 16 weeks, I think Amber survived for. But we have and then we had Freddie in the November 2021, and we had him for 2.5 days. So but yeah, I mean, I still speak to Kate, I still speak to her now, and it's lovely that you can build those relationships with people who know what you've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's something that's helped you through the loss of Freddie and in the days and weeks and months after, to have somebody who's been through the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because every now and again we'll have a chat, and whether we haven't done it so much recently, but whether or not we're crying or whatever, but we
Mm.
both understand the everything that has happened. So
Yeah,
it's good that you can find those people who understand.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
like I said, we wouldn't have done it without Soft. So
Well, it's wonderful feedback. Lovely to hear that. So, Becky, tell us about your pregnancy after loss, and how and when did you decide to have another child? I mean, that's a big decision.
yeah, so we lost Freddie in November 21. Um, and I think we went away in the January, so it was quite soon after we'd spoke about it, and I think we decided that would we would try again. I mean, I was 40. How old was I? 40 at this time. So I, we said that we. I don't know. I guess we just felt like there was so much love to give that needed to be
Mm,
given, that we weren't ready
mm,
to not try one more time. And I think
mm,
for us, we were like, if anything was to go wrong or blah blah blah, we would have drawn a line under it. But we both agreed that we'd give it one more attempt, and then whatever would be would be.
mm,
So
mm.
yeah, it was probably only a few months after Freddie, and then I actually fell pregnant on, it was my birthday actually. I found
Oh,
out, sorry, so I found out in the April that I was pregnant. So I got in touch with the hospital because they were absolutely fantastic. So
wonderful.
with everything, um, all the way through Freddie and afterwards. Um,
Wonderful.
yeah, so I got in touch with the lady, the screening midwife there that we were friends with, and they got me in early for a 10-week scan.
Oh,
Um,
brilliant.
and unfortunately, when we went, so this was now at the beginning of June,
Mm,
I found out that I'd had a silent miscarriage. Um, so it basically it totally took me back to everything with Freddie.
mm.
It was just, and I think just it was the not knowing that I'd lost the baby as well. It was
Yeah.
like, there was no signs or anything that I'd lost it,
Mm,
or anything like that. It was really hard. So obviously we were petrified of the whole pregnancy anyway, but then to
mm.
lose the baby without even realizing. So then we basically decided that we were gonna just give ourselves the summer and enjoy the
Yeah.
summer and not worry about it, not really think about it. So we booked up loads of things, fun things to do. And then literally about 6 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant again. And that's where this little one came from.
Wow.
So,
And
sorry, go on.
no, I was just gonna say, how did you feel when you found that out? Because you've now had two losses in a row.
Yeah. So totally unexpected. So it was quite a bit of shock. And if I'm honest, I didn't enjoy my pregnancy at all.
Mm,
I think obviously everything that's happened with Freddie was always a worry and always on our mind of
mm,
everything that could go wrong in that sense. But then also because I'd had a silent miscarriage and hadn't
mm.
known that I'd lost the baby, so I was
Yeah.
just petrified that I was gonna lose him without even realizing. And actually,
Mm,
I felt like that the whole way through.
mm,
And I think with Freddie and everything as well, um, we we had an NI no, sorry, with Jax, we did the screening. The screening came back as low risk. We decided that we would still do an NIPT, and I think because of they by this point they're then available on the NHS, so but
mm.
we only had to pay half, because if we had had a high risk NIPT, we wouldn't have had to pay. Um, but so anyway, we did the NIPT. The NITP came back as low risk.
Okay.
Um, And so at that point, we decided obviously not to do the amnio because we had done the amnio with
Yeah.
Freddie. But it wasn't worth it. We were like, well,
Mm.
everything's coming back as low risk. We'll go with it now. So which is obviously not good to know, but I guess that just unknown and that fear just doesn't really
Mm.
leave you. And even to the point of when he was born, I was still thinking something's going to go wrong, something's going to go wrong.
Mm.
Like the whole way through the pregnancy, I just kept thinking something was going to go wrong. It was really, really difficult to enjoy it, if I'm honest.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's good that you are being so honest, because that's why people will be listening, is to find out what the experience has been like for you. And it's better not to sugarcoat it and just say how it
Yeah.
really was for you. And so after this difficult pregnancy, with all this anxiety and emotion going on in your head and your hormones surging through your body, Becky, tell us about Jaxon's arrival. I mean, what's the story of his birth? How did that go?
So I had, from quite early on, I'd spoken to the hospital, and like I said, they were absolutely fantastic. They were, my screening midwife that I had all the way through with Freddie, she came to every appointment with Jax. Like she got me in. I mean, I had so many scans with him. I had a 6-week scan, a 10-week scan, a 12-week scan, a 16-week scan, a 20-week scan, 24 weeks, 30 weeks, 32. And then I think my last one was 37. So I
Hmm.
like tons and tons of scans. They were
Yeah.
just keeping a really close eye on him. We had a bit of a scare at 32 weeks because there was some like flickers on that they could see on his bowel, and you just think the worst.
Mm.
And they mentioned words like Down syndrome or cystic fibrosis
Mm.
and things like that, and instantly you just go straight back to,
Mm.
oh my goodness, it's all going to
Yeah.
happen again. Um, so they did lots more scans. We got referred to a different hospital for just a second opinion. And then basically they were like, actually, I think it might just be where he's got a build up of like poo in his bowel, basically. They said it can either go one way or another. It's If you ask 50% of people, they'll tell you there's nothing wrong with the picture. If you ask another 50%, they might say there's something there, but it's not really anything major. So they tested us for cystic fibrosis and all sorts. And to be honest, we wouldn't have been worried if it had been Down syndrome anyway.
Mm.
So I think especially
Mm.
after Freddie, to have a child of Downs, that would never have been an
Yeah.
issue for us.
Yeah.
Um, so but they did all the tests, so all the major things they ruled out. So once they had ruled out all the major things, they're like, if it is something, it's going to be something not made, it's going to be a minor, so it's not really anything to be too concerned about. So like I said, I had loads of scans, loads of appointments. The team at the hospital were brilliant. And I said quite early on that I didn't want to wait around. Like when he was ready, I wanted him out.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
wanted a C-section. So
Okay.
I didn't, in my mind, I just didn't want to have any risk of anything else potentially going wrong.
Yeah.
And I just, for us, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So they agreed, they were happy. So we booked a day and he was 38 weeks and 5 days. And we
Wow.
had,
Okay.
so they said any time after 38 weeks, they would be happy to get him out. And I just wanted him out as soon as he was ready. So I just didn't,
Mm.
the
Mm.
longer he was in there, the more I just worried about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes
um,
sense. And Becky, just to interrupt you there, at what gestation was Freddie born?
he was 38 weeks exactly.
Okay. Okay. So
The math.
Jaxon held on for another 5 days.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Freddie was £4 4 ounces and Jaxon was £7 6.
Oh,
But they looked very similar, except for Jackson's a little bit bigger.
yeah.
So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
Family resemblance is strong.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Okay, lovely. And the hours and days following his birth, I mean, how did you feel? I mean, well, I suppose especially those first 2.5 days, because that's how long Freddie lived for.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of my biggest fears was, or not fears, I suppose, but I wanted to make it past well, bringing Jax home from the hospital for one thing, because we never got to do that. And do you know what? It was so lovely, because when we walked out of the hospital, just random people like congratulating you. And I'd never had that
Oh,
before, because obviously when
yeah,
we
of
walked out
course.
the hospital with Freddie, we didn't have him with us, and so nobody.
Oh,
So it was, I know it was just so nice to have that,
yeah.
which was just amazing. Um, really emotional, as you can imagine,
Mm,
because it
mm,
of everything, there's all emotions, even guilt to a point, because you feel guilty
mm,
because you're putting all your energy into this one, and you're not, I think sometimes I'm not thinking about Freddie as much as I used to, and
mm.
obviously I am, but he just takes up a bigger part of my day now, and there's just
Yeah,
not
of
as much,
course.
not as much time. But yeah, I mean, I found it was tough, but I've always had a really good support network. I've got my husband, I've got my family, I've got my friends, and they've all been amazing through everything. So, and the hospital have a support counsellor that they offered, for me to speak to if I wanted it as well. I didn't, because I didn't feel that I needed it.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
but yeah, I mean, having him home was like, another milestone that we just never had, because with Freddie we didn't buy anything. We didn't,
okay.
because we knew so early on about
Mm,
his condition, we were too scared to buy everything.
mm,
So with
mm,
this one, where we did, I gave in eventually, and I think I was
mm.
probably getting around 30 weeks before I started
So,
like even thinking about buying anything.
mm, mm,
But yeah, for him, and just having the pushchair and having everything at home, and so
yeah.
yeah, it was lovely. It's been tough, but I still write to Freddie. So I write to him. I've got those books that are, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're like letters to my son in heaven. Um,
Oh,
so somebody sent me one, um, after I lost Freddie, and basically it's just I do it every couple of weeks. Or if there's a special day or something like that, I just write to him and tell him all about what's happening. And I think
mm,
it's just part of my way of coping with it all, really. I feel
yeah.
like I'm telling, like, and I feel like if I haven't done it for a while, then I'm like, oh, I need to write to Freddie and
Mm,
just tell him what's been going on,
mm,
and tell him all these things
mm.
that's happening, and how Jax is doing, and all these sort of things. But yeah, so it is difficult. But yeah, I mean, we've got obviously this little beauty now, and it would never change anything with Freddie, but you know, there is a rainbow, I suppose, and that's
Yeah.
what just takes up
Yeah.
more of our day than we ever imagined.
So, and your nights, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah. He's pretty good at night, to be fair. He doesn't sleep much in the day, but he's not too bad at night
Okay.
time.
Okay. Well, that's something at least.
Yeah,
Becky, yeah, I think you've made such an important point there about the fear of buying things for this baby that you are sure or fairly certain you're going to lose. I think that's such a common thing that we hear.
yeah.
Because
I mean, I think because we found out so early, I mean, lots of people don't find out as early as we did, so they've
mm,
already purchased things and things like that. But I think once you know, I mean, the only thing I really bought for Freddie, I bought him well, I say a couple of toys. He had loads of toys. He had loads of cuddly
mm,
toys, because we took them all to the hospital. And a few bits of clothes,
mm.
which are still upstairs in his drawer, that I don't know what I'll ever do with them, or they might stay there forever. But
And I suppose Jackson was too big to ever fit into them, wasn't he?
yeah, I didn't want Jax to be putting them anyway, because I'm like, no, no, no,
Okay.
they're Freddie's clothes. Like,
Mm,
they
mm,
can stay there. They're Freddie's clothes. Because one day I might make a blanket or something out of them, but I still
mm,
can't quite
mm.
come to terms with cutting them all up yet. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, so I was like, no, they're Freddie's. But I mean, he has had some of Freddie's bits. Like, he had loads of muzzies and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, so you've had those, haven't you? But yeah,
Amazing. Well, yeah, it sounds like it's been a journey, Becky. That's for sure.
yeah, it
And
certainly has.
it sounds like Jackson's done some healing of your heart and your hurt.
Yeah, he totally has. I mean, it will never be healed, I don't think, but he certainly has gone a long way to helping it, I guess. I don't know if healed's the right word, but just putting it at ease, I suppose. The love that we have for Freddie is still the same, and that will never change. And it was only yesterday, something was on the telly, and me and my husband looked at each other, and our eyes were falling, and anything little just triggers it totally straight away. Mother's Day and things like that is always hard.
Yeah.
And even I found it difficult, I think, New Year's Day this year, because it was going into another new year and he's further away.
Yeah.
And because last year it was always like, oh, he was last year, and then this year it's now like, oh no, it wasn't last year, it was the year before. So so that there's always things that it will. I guess my heart will never be mended, but it has been healed slightly, I guess. It's probably a better way of thinking of it.
Lots of people have said that this baby is not here to replace Freddie in any way. He's a different baby, and you can hold both in your hearts.
Totally. And I wouldn't want him to like live in Freddie's shadow, or be a replacement, because it wouldn't be fair on him. He's not Freddie. He's Freddie's brother, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're his little brother, and you always will be, even though he was smaller than you.
It's very weird to think, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so it's we have pictures all over our house of Freddie. Like, the Freddie is always going to be a huge part. His middle name is Freddie. So, he's always going to know about his brother. And he will always be, always be talked about.
Yeah. Always be part of the family.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't want that any other way.
Yeah. Becky, I can see you've got your hands full there. So just before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask if you've got any message or anything you wanted to share with people listening who are in a similar position.
I guess, I don't know. It depends on the person, but there is hope out there, I suppose. At the end of the day, yes, what we've all been through is totally devastating, and you honestly think you'll never get. You won't get over it, but you do get through it. And if you're thinking about having a rainbow baby, then it's totally worth it.
Well, that's important to say, because it sounds like you had a tough time through the pregnancy, but you're saying despite all of that, it was worth it, which is wonderful.
It's totally worth it, although I've already decided we're not having another one, because I'm totally done with being pregnant. I never want to be pregnant again.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
yeah, it's not a fun time. Okay. Noted. We will write that one down.
So yeah.
Well, Becky, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you sharing your experience, and it's been lovely meeting Jaxon online as well, and just to see what he's like. He's quite chilled, actually.
Yeah, he's a good smiler. He's a bit miserable right now. He's gonna start crying, but he's quite a good smiler.
Oh,
it's a nice smile, don't we? It's quite hot outside.
That's lovely. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for to the listeners who've tuned in to listen to our discussion today. And just wanted to end off by saying, if you're an expectant parent or a bereaved parent, a family member, or even a professional, if you're looking for support or information, we are here for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Soft UK, and you can find all our contact information in the podcast description. So thank you so much again, and we'll chat to you soon, Becky.
Lovely. Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.